Tales of Mithrym.
Den of Thieves, read by Skye Alley, Part 11, The Other Way. "Damn your hide," Elvin shouted. The kobold was rolling on its back, creased in hysterics as it laughed at them. "It has led us right back to where we started." Elvin kicked at a nearby tree stump. "Looks like it took you on quite the journey to get back here, mind," said the guard, looking them all up and down and taking in the now dry mud that had caked onto Elvin's coat and hands. "That's not even the half of it," Derval sneered. "It even managed to find us a—" "What's your name?" Derval stopped suddenly as a voice cut in. To all their surprise, it was Ducky, and he seemed to be kneeling down next to the kobold. "What in Ean's name are you—" Elvin began, but Ducky raised a hand to him and continued to talk to the kobold. "What is your name?" he asked again. The kobold stopped laughing and looked up at him quizzically. "Me? I'm Ducky," it declared. Ducky smiled. "Is that so?" "Yes, Ducky, that's me," it repeated. "Funny that. Did you know that's my name too?" "No, it's not. Only me. Only one." The kobold snapped at him. "What's going on?" Elvin gulped. Again, Ducky lifted a hand to hide. "You live here, don't you?" Ducky asked the kobold. "Yes, that's right. All my life. Born and raised." "Grew up working the ships, didn't ya?" Ducky continued. "That's right." "It's lying." Derval began to smile. "I do not understand. Why is—" Elvin tried again, but Ducky continued. "You're just a human, really, aren't you?" "All my life. Man and boy. That's me." The kobold clapped its hands triumphantly. "You've no family to the north of here, have you?" Ducky asked. "None. They're all to the south," the kobold declared proudly. "But the south is—" Elvin's voice trailed off as he looked out to the sea. "And none to the west?" Elvin asked. "All of them. All to the west." The kobold turned on him. "Living among the trees?" Derval asked. The kobold turned to her, too. "Only in trees. Never in houses. Never in stone." "Down in the valley?" Ducky asked. "Right at the bottom. Down in the stream." "Ducky, you are a genius," Elvin beamed. "Not me," Ducky laughed. "My granny." "Guard." Elvin turned to look at the man. "Do you think you can find somewhere for this little chap while we go for another walk?" The guard looked puzzled. "I suppose so," he said, scratching his head. "We can stick him in the cells, but where are you going?" Elvin thought through the answers. "Northeast, uphill, to look for a stone building," he said with a smile. The kobold began stamping its foot angrily on the ground, but the guard took the rope from Derval and pulled it away. "Let's go." Ducky smiled as he stood back up. The three of them made their way up the hill. The sun was on their backs now as they cut east through the trees, always following the rise of the earth as they went. Some way on, they saw a clearing ahead. Approaching it through the trees, they could make out a lonely hill in the distance, at the very top of which was the tumbling remains of an old watchtower. The stonework looked ancient. Moss and lichen was growing all over it. At the very top, a ragged black banner was blowing in the breeze. Ducky and Elvin were about to continue on when Derval blocked them with her arms, then pointed to a small doorway at the foot of the tower. From that distance, it took them a moment to make out exactly what she was pointing at, but as they looked, they made it out. Kobolds. 2 of them. They were leaning against the wall with spears in their hands, looking out towards the forest. The 3 stood silently, watching from the trees. Then it was Elvin that spoke. "I think I have an idea." A little while later, the shadows were getting long in the clearing as the 2 kobolds on guard chatted and laughed with each other as they watched the tree line. They both leapt to attention as they saw a tall man walking across the grass towards them. "Who are you?" they shouted, pointing their spears at him. "Me?" the figure smiled. "Yeah, you," they shouted again. "Oh, I'm just a traveler, taking in the sights. Pretty tower you've got there." The kobolds snarled and bared their teeth at him. "Name's Ducky," he said with a bow. As he drew himself back up, he reached a hand round and drew his sword from his back. As he did so, both kobolds leapt at him, spears charged. They did not get far, though, as two other figures dropped down from the stonework above them. Derval and Elvin landed on a kobold each. They rolled and fumbled with them, but brought up rope and began to bind their hands. They tied cloth tight around the kobolds' faces, muffling their calls, and they squirmed and tried to claw at them. Ducky began to laugh, but Elvin quickly shushed him. "That's two down," Derval whispered. "How are we going to go about getting in?" "I'm not sure yet," Elvin began. "We should have some time to make our plan now, though." He looked down at the two squirming figures. Just like their kin back at the town, they had bright purple skin and were dressed in odd ends and rags. Looking over at the ruins, Elvin could see a single doorway in which was hung a crude door of rotten wood and rusty nails. It was held by great hinges that looks as though they would probably creak far too loudly if they tried them. "What do you suppose?" he began to whisper. He stopped, though, as he began to hear a thumping sound from nearby. They all turned to look and realized that one of the kobolds had wriggled its way over to the wall and was kicking at a section of it hard with one foot. "Oi!" Ducky shouted and leapt forward to grab it. It was too late, though. There was a gentle but sudden sound of falling dust. Shortly after followed a rumble. Loose stone from the wall above began falling down, landing on the ground with a thundering crash. Once the dust had settled, it was apparent that little of the wall had fallen. Indeed, few of the pieces could have hurt anyone there. But the sound echoed about the clearing with little sign of dying away. Elvin cursed under his breath as there came the sound of many running feet inside the tower. "So much for a stealthy entrance," Derval sighed. The door began to open. The three of them all readied their weapons.
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.